razor brush today. B5 Declaration Knot and 400 model from Rubberset, restored handle, aluminum. Find it pretty comfy. Soaking it for a few minutes while I get other stuff ready here. This is the R41 head from Muhle, and I used it maybe 2 days ago to test out my Nasset blade that is very old. It didn't work very well in this razor, and so this is well known for being an aggressive razor. So I'd like to put something more modern in it, more young. This is an aggressive razor, and I think let's just go all the way with one of the sharpest blades that I work with. And when I say sharp, I mean kind of temperamental. But when it cuts, when the geometry is right for this particular blade, feather, then it just slices through the hairs so nicely. This is the one I used in the Mercure Futur yesterday, and it cuts so nicely. And I use mid-range settings, but today we're going to put it in the R41 head. Titanium, I think it's a halo handle. There we go, and you'll notice, just like 2 days ago, the arc is just not very deep on this, the way it bends the blade. I think that's just one of the reasons how this guy gets the job done. So I'm going to splash some water on my face now, kind of let that moisture soak into my hairs while I introduce Cella. I have been working with this guy for the past few days. I really do enjoy the soap. It's an Italian soap, and not a lot of butters and creams and oils and things like that in here to benefit your skin afterwards. I'm not saying your skin feels bad afterwards, mine doesn't, but it's mainly a soap, and so it takes a lot less to use per shave, and so I'm getting used to the quantities, because when I first started using this I was scooping, and so it was very easy to get just the right amount of soap. But I'm kind of working on my bowl loading skills, my soap loading. So now that the brush is soaked for a little while, I'm going to shake just like I have. I'm going to shake most of the water out of it. One of the secrets has been I just was putting way too much water in at first. I got fine shaves out of it, but they just weren't creamy. I didn't get a whole lot of slide and glide on the razor. Alright, so it's shaking out pretty well, and 40 seconds I think is what I was going to try, so let's do that, and let's see what the clock says. We're going to start on the mark of 30, so when it hits 10 seconds we'll know to quit. You know, those artisan cropes definitely take less time to load because they're softer. And they also, you have to use more product, whereas this guy, you can get along with about half as much product, so that makes him quite affordable. 15 more seconds, 10 more, just a medium pressure, not tons, and there we go. 40 seconds. I think I did it for 30 yesterday. I'm just going to rinse off hold the tub here upside down so the soap doesn't get excessively wet. I mean, you can get it wet if you want. This is just my preference. I'm just to seal it up and go to the next day kind of guy. Some people like to let it sit out and dry. Make your own choice about that. Good people on both camps. Alright, so now here's the thing. Lather bowl. And here's what the brush looks like. I'm thinking it's got plenty of lather, plenty of soap for the shave. with a artisan soap, a lot of times I have to add 2.5 or 3 teaspoons of water while I'm making the lather to get the soap where it's the right spot, and that's for about a 1/4 teaspoon of soap. And then sometimes that's with just 20 seconds of loading if you're switching and just doing it with brush loading instead of measuring. I'm doing more brush loading these days, trying to increase my skills there. And so I came at Cella with a similar method, not knowing how it would be quite so different. Just going to put a little water in there. And so yesterday, I think the water I added to the soap was just a 1/2 teaspoon. So I think I'm bumping up 10 seconds the loading time so that I've got a higher soap count. And I want to try to get it to be more kind of rich and creamy. It's looking great so far. Love to have this guy dialed in. I mean, he's easy to dial in if you dump in too much soap. This is looking great. You have to watch out with your eyes though. Most soaps, when they're this dry, they are, when they're this rigid, look how it's just not moving as I'm walking around, as I'm moving it around. All the edges and lines and peaks and things like that. Most soaps, you've got to add more water to it, but not this one. This one you pay less until you learn what this one looks like. It's better just to pay more attention to how the soap feels. Just a few more drops I added. So after I integrate this, I'm going to do a finger check and see. Nice smell coming up. Either you love or you hate this cherry almond scent that's coming up. Mostly cherry, but the almond is there. I'd say maybe 60-40. What a great scent combo. My instinct just tells me I am going to keep adding water to this, but I have to pay attention to my fingers, so let's check it out. See, that's just, that doesn't need any more water, according to my fingers. How about that? So I'm just going to make sure it's well mixed. And then we'll go with it. Just barely had to add water. Very small peaks in this one, just a very different texture, and it's got a lot of structure, holds itself up really well. Very different than the lathers you have usually seen from me. All right, let's try it out. Face wet. Well, if this is the right mix, it's kind of pretty cool because you don't have to spend so much time adding in water and integrating it, you know? Just doesn't use as much, apparently. Scrubbing away those face oils. I have oily skin. Sometimes it comes in handy. Like in the winter, my skin just doesn't dry out nearly as quickly as other people's. Feels nice and slick going on. There we go. Try it out. I have no idea what this really edgy blade in this very aggressive razor is going to do. I've used some aggressive razors like the Blackbird. I've used a single edge gem type razor, which can be very aggressive, and so I can't normally shave with those on a regular basis like the Blackbird. It's too rough on my skin for me to shave with it every day, for sure. All right, let's give it a shot and see what happens. Also, so we see the blade right here, and one thing you can do to help if you have an aggressive razor is lift out the handle so that you get a little bit more skin touch on the top cap, and sometimes that can really help you if you have a razor that's maybe a little too aggressive when you're in its sweet spot. Feels good so far. I mean, it is cutting those hairs. I mean, it's not smooth, but it's fairly consistent, predictable. I don't think I'm gonna all of a sudden spout a geyser of blood. We'll see how smooth it is on the second and third passes. Definitely got to be careful with this one. This is the kind of razor that you can use and maybe be able to skip a pass. Use just 2 passes to shave instead of 3. And there are definitely guys who enjoy that and seek that out. It is aggressive. And there we go. Not bad. I did have to be careful, of course. Now let's rinse. All right, second pass lather here. Now sometimes you can get irritation and you don't really know it. I do feel a couple little spots over on my right side that could have been made a little tender by that razor just now. Now let's see what kind of glide we have now that the oils have been washed away and the majority of the hair has been taken down. Cross grain now. I think this is a very well designed head, the angles and everything, because I think you really need to know what you're doing if you're going to go aggressive. Felt pretty good. Cross grain down here. This motion right here is cross grain. I'm definitely paying attention to my handle angle here. Too close to the skin, and if I try to stay in kind of that normal sweet spot of 30 degrees or something that a lot of razors perform well at, then it feels like that is a little too rough for me in general. So I ride the cap is what I've been doing lately. Yeah, nice. And rinse. And I've used some aggressive razors and had the situation where I just did my second pass and I looked, and even my third pass, and I still had hairs around, and I thought, well, if you're going to be aggressive, then you better mow down the hairs. Now guess what? Odds are it's my technique that was the problem. But this guy right now, I could walk away after just 2 passes without doing a whole lot of effort during that second pass to get my trouble spot here. And there are some hairs there that weren't cut very well. But I'm pretty confident that after a third pass, it's going to be just fine. A nice shave. So let's lather that up. Always start off and lean it over that way. End up with a big old glob right there on my ear. So here we are. Have a nice kind of dense lather, relatively dense. I'm really curious if I were to sprinkle that with more water, but I'm not going to risk it right now. Sometimes you just take one that's maybe feels a little dense or dry or something, just splash a little water on your face, and then boom, the lather just turns slick and explodes. All right. Cross grain down here. Not really worrying about it too much. This is an area that gets shaved really well. It's not my problem child. Probably already got a shave that's just fine. Now, problem child right over here. I am going to just go kind of straight up, which it does have a slight against the grain aspect to it, since my hair right there goes diagonally. Taking it easy and light. How did it work? Oh, there's some dudes right there. And bam, just took them out. Excellent. Very nice. Well, I can see why people like it, because it's an efficient cutter, especially with a blade like this. That is a very above average cut. Very happy with that. Excellent. So if I want to get a close cut and I don't mind a little harshness, especially in that first pass, then this is a good combo to go with. Now, feathers aren't necessarily the sharpest blade always. Sometimes other blades will work better than other razors, and so I could put more razor blades through this particular head and have maybe even better results if something just works a little better with my skin. Now, as always, blades are subjective, and you could take the same head, put the same feather in it, and get a very different shave. You could rip your skin up. You also, if you have a certain type of skin, you also may say that, boy, that just feels like butter, and because you've just got tough skin, you know. And so it's very subjective, but that's a feather in an R41. I did treat it carefully and gently. You know what it's time for now? It's time for maybe some splash with some alcohol in it, and we can figure out how we did. And I just really like to, when I'm looking for an alcohol splash, a lot of times this is kind of the one that I look at in my drawer and I go, I want to grab that one. But then I'm like, well, let's kind of see what else I have, just to try to use up other things. Normal Clubman is a little bit, the scent I just don't like, but this guy I do. Some mild stinging, especially in this part of my neck, which is to be expected. And now it's gone. So not too bad, not too bad. Happy with that. This is not a super intense scent, the Whiskey Woods from Clubman. Not, it fades away pretty quickly and doesn't really bother you too much as you're wearing it. I might be interested sometimes to see what somebody else thought of it, you know, walk by, that kind of thing. All right, nice. So this is how much soap I had left in my bowl. I'm kind of happy with that. I was feeling like I needed more soap so that this guy would really get dense and creamy, and I believe I succeeded with that. Plenty left over for a couple passes. So that was a good shave. That was a good shave. I may play around with Cella some more. But I think this is kind of where I'm going to land and maybe make my bookmark as far as my best shave. On the third pass, rinsing away that third pass, I was starting to feel it being kind of creamy, but there are other soaps that give you a much better feel as you are rinsing your face. And I'm guessing it's because of those butters and oils and things like that you know, that Cella just isn't putting in its mix. So, good soap, very nice scent. For some reason, this scent doesn't really stick around on my brush afterwards. A lot of times, with most other scents, I can, even after I clean my brush, after I rinse it, I can sniff and smell my brush, and I can smell like the last two soaps that I used in combination with each other, and sometimes that's really interesting. But not so with Cella. It just doesn't seem to stick to the brush. I don't know why. Very nice. Now I do not think that this is pairing that well with the Whiskey Woods aftershave. I don't think they work together too well. I think they're conflicting. And but the good news is the Cella is not sticking around on my face, so it's not, I don't feel conflicted right now because the soap faded away very quickly once it was rinsed off. So cleaning time now. Here's one little trivia bit. You know, these knots look like this after a shave, but when you first get a knot like this, and it's maybe it's a more expensive brush knot, most of the time when you get it, it's much smaller. It's like this narrow. And so when you're used to maybe an older brush that you have that's splayed out more, and you're like, I'm gonna get this new brush in, and it's super soft, and I'm really gonna enjoy shaving with it. And so you're contrasting the splayed out one that you've worked for a while, and then you get it, and it's very dense and super small, you know. And I was actually kind of disappointed when I opened the box because I just didn't see that coming. So I'm maybe hoping to spare some folks a little of that shock. But then as you use it and the hairs will start to splay. As you use it, it'll open up and look right and be able to splay out and give you nice comfortable shaves. So just give it time. And other ones, some move slowly and some will splay out pretty quick. So it all just depends on the knot. And then after the splash absorbed, I went ahead and threw on just a little bit of this Nivea Sensitive post-shave balm. It's available so many places, good price point. But I just kind of was doing some research online and noticed some pretty reputable guys were talking about how it used to be good a few years ago, but other ones, other balms have come forward, and this has kind of stayed back. And they were making the guess that they were trying to make this one not be quite as nourishing as other ones, so that you would move on to purchase the other Nivea hydrating products and creams and things like that. Certainly that's possible. It's a big company, so that is something that sometimes happens. But for me, I've got oily skin anyway, and so I only need just a little bit of healing after a shave, and so this does well. This does well for me. But once this guy's out, that's another reason I put it on tonight. Once this guy's out, I'm going to use this other brother, the regular one, not the sensitive, because the regular has a little alcohol in it, which helps to do a little sensor diagnostic work on my shave afterwards. So I got a really good shave without going into the extra innings. The half pass that I usually do after 3 passes, didn't have to worry about it. There are just a couple little hairs right there that maybe I could go back and get better, but I'm just not going to worry about it. Could I shave with this razor every day with this blade? Maybe, not sure. It did generate a little tenderness, but I wonder, and my guess is that might heal by the time it comes around to shave again. But I'm not certain of that. So the soap, happy with. This might be my landmark, bookmark one that I point people to if they're wondering about lathering with Cella. The brush is doing really well, so I guess the thickness and creaminess of the lather really benefited the brush. The bristles got in and around them to help relieve some of that density and make it more comfortable as I was using it. So happy about that. And I did not get that same skipping like I did before when my lather was too wet. So I think I succeeded in that regard. It still looks like it's way too dry compared to the other soaps, like I've been saying, but you gotta trust your fingers and the slickness that you feel with those more than your eyes, because soaps are just different in their chemical makeup. All right, the feather blade did well. It cut well. Sometimes a good sharp blade will, when it's held at the right geometry that's conducive to good cutting for you, even if it might be aggressive to some, it may not be aggressive to you because it fits your face. Then you might be able to enjoy it instead of be afraid of it. So I figured I'd try it, and it worked out this time. So there are other razors that I do not put a feather in, or a Kai. Those two are the ones that I often find that are a little too touchy for me sometimes. But there we go. That list, that too rough or too touchy list, probably differs per person. Maybe not too wildly, but more than you might think, I think. All right, good shave. Good shave, happy with it. And yeah, that Whiskey Woods, it's still concentrated on my palm where I applied it, and I don't really smell it here unless I'm smelling it right, and I like that. It'll surprise me every once in a while with a little scent in my nose, just easy going, not too assuming, not too strong, and just a nice woody, musky type scent with probably some kind of whiskey notes in there that I'm not good enough to be able to pull them out. All right. Well, I hope this helped. It will help somebody out there. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Take care and good night.